Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. I heard my fiancé laugh before I heard my own name. The laugh came from the corner booth near the bar. My name is Mia and I am 27. By the time I realized they were talking about me, I was already standing too close. I had just pushed open the hallway door from the bathrooms back to the main room. Music and voices spilled over me like a wave and I froze. Our group had split by then, bridesmaids at one table and groomsmen at another. His voice came from the groomsmen's side, sharp and amused. Something in me knew to stop walking before I became visible. I could see them in my side view past the edge of a pillar. Ryan in the middle, shoulders relaxed, beer in his hand. Logan leaned back with that smug tilt he always used when he held court with an audience. Two other guys flanked them, loose and entertained. My body stayed half turned in the hallway like I was stuck between two rooms. I told myself I should just walk out and make noise, let's not be weird. My feet did not move though, which already tells you something. I heard Logan say my name and the word bride, and the table laughed again. The laugh was not kind, it had that sharp edge men get when they show off. My pulse jumped like my body heard danger before my brain caught up. They did not see me, yet the hallway gave me cover and my brain used it. I shifted back one step so the door would not swing again and give me away. There was this stupid thought in my head that I wanted to know what he would say when he forgot I existed as a person. That thought feels ugly to admit even now. Curiosity can be a slow knife. Logan lifted his glass, raised it like a fake toast. He said he was working on his speech for the big day and had some jokes. One of the other guys told him to keep it clean because of grandparents. Logan shrugged and grinned, said Ryan could handle it. I heard my fiancé laugh again and it landed in my chest like a shove. Then Logan said it. I was thinking, I open with how everybody here already knows Mia is generous, he started. He paused for effect and I already felt my throat close. Like, not just with her heart, you know what I mean. The table burst into that loud, shocked laugh men do when someone crosses a line on purpose. I stood there pressed to the wall and my face went hot like someone slapped me. One of the guys told him he was insane and dragged out the word with this half grin. No one said stop. No one said that is too far. They just nudged him like he was a comic on stage and they wanted more. I remember my hand closing hard around my phone like I could anchor myself with it. Logan kept going because of course he did. He said maybe he should joke about how Ryan finally locked me down before anyone else did. He tossed out the word slut so casual like it was a harmless sticker. He said the guests would love it because everyone knew my past. I almost laughed from sheer disbelief because what past? In that moment my brain split into two tracks. One half wanted to march out and flip the whole table. The other half whispered that maybe I was misunderstanding something, which is the voice women get trained to hear. I stood there arguing with myself while they rated which joke would land best at our wedding. I still hate that I gave them those extra seconds. Then I heard Ryan. His voice cut through the noise, softer but crystal clear. She will be fine, she is cool, she can take it. Another quick laugh from him like he had to prove he could hang. He did not sound drunk, he sounded proud of being easygoing. It felt like the floor shifted under my shoes. I realized my nails dug into my palm so deep it hurt. My heartbeat moved into my ears, drowning out parts of their next lines. I caught enough, though, pieces of them debating which stories were safe to hint at. The words crazy nights and wild phase floated out and none of them belonged to me. I did not recognize the girl they were casually building for sport. Something in my chest dropped like a stone, finally hit the bottom of a well. I pushed the door the rest of the way and walked out into the bar. My smile snapped on before I even reached their table. I hate how automatic that is. Logan clocked me first, his eyebrows jumped, then that smirk slid back into place. Ryan glanced over and his eyes softened like nothing was wrong. There she is, the star of the show, Logan called out. He lifted his glass toward me, cheerful, loud, confident. His tone would have fooled anyone who had not heard the last 2 minutes. I walked up to the table and every step felt like a choice I could still undo. What are you guys planning over here? I asked. My voice came out steady, which almost scared me more. I let my hand rest on the back of Ryan's chair, light touch like normal. I watched Logan's face for any flicker of guilt or embarrassment. Nothing, just that same easy grin like I was part of a bit he controlled. Trying to write my best man speech, he said. You know, gotta keep it spicy. He winked like we shared some private joke. One of the other guys shifted in his seat and avoided my eyes. That small movement told me more truth than any of their words. Ryan reached up and squeezed my hand. He is kidding around, relax, he said. The words hit wrong the second they left his mouth. It felt like he was smoothing me down like static on a shirt. Not once did he say Logan had gone too far, not once did he say cut it out. I could have pushed right then, I could have said I heard everything and watched their faces drop. Instead, I let the moment pass, which is the part I keep replaying at 3 in the morning. I laughed, but the sound felt thin even to me. Spicy sounds risky with my parents there, I said, and I forced a little eye roll. Logan leaned his elbows on the table and studied me. Come on, you are not that fragile, he said. You can handle a little honesty, right? The way he said honesty made my skin crawl because we both knew there was nothing honest about what he had in mind. It was performance cruelty dressed as banter. I felt my cheeks tighten around another fake smile. Depends what you call honest, I said. My voice dropped one notch lower without me planning it. Ryan shifted his weight like he wanted the attention to move. He asked if I wanted another drink, which felt like a diversion, not concern. Actually, I need some water, I said. I pulled my hand away from his chair and stepped back. My chest felt packed too full, like there was no space left for air. The table slid out of focus for a second, like my eyes did not want to work with my brain. I headed for the bar and counted each step like that would keep me upright. I knew if I stayed near them, I would react, and I was not ready yet. That sounds cowardly, but it is the truth. I needed to make sense of what I heard before I let them see my anger. You cannot fight when you are still convincing yourself the fight is even allowed. At the bar, I asked for water and wrapped both hands around the glass. I watched them from across the room without looking straight at them. Logan was still talking, animated arms throwing shapes in the air. Ryan listened, leaning and laughing at the right moments. The image clashed hard with the version of him who promised to protect me. One of my bridesmaids slid up beside me and bumped my shoulder. She wanted to know why I had vanished and joked about stealing me back from the guys. I mumbled something about needing a break and my throat felt dry again. I did not tell her what I heard, not yet. Saying it out loud would make it real in a way my mind was not ready for. The night dragged from there in that slow, fake, fun way group events sometimes have. Photos, jokes, planning details, people hugging me and calling me future wife. I hit all my marks, nodded in the right spots, laughed when I should. Under all that, I kept replaying one line from Ryan: "She is cool, she can take it." Every time I looked at him, I saw the moment he chose to blend in instead of stand up. That sounds dramatic, maybe, yet that is how it felt in my body. My stomach nodded each time Logan clapped him on the back. Those two moved like a team, and I had no idea where I actually fit between them. On the ride home, the air felt heavy in the car. For a while, I watched the streetlights blur past and tried to decide how to start. My tongue kept catching on the first word. He hummed along to a song and tapped the wheel. That easy rhythm grated on my nerves because nothing felt easy anymore. "You had fun tonight?" he asked. His eyes stayed on the road, yet I could hear the hopeful tilt. He wanted the answer to be simple so he could store the night as a success. I wished I could give him that and go back to being clueless. That wish lasted about 3 seconds. "It was fine," I said, and the word fine felt sharp. I let the silence stretch after that, which he noticed. He glanced over, then looked back ahead. "You seem off," he said. "Everything okay?" That simple question made my jaw tighten. I almost told him right there, almost ripped the whole thing open in that moving car. I pictured his face when I repeated the jokes and imagined his first instinct. Would he deny it, laugh it off, blame Logan? That little mental roulette wheel spun faster than the tires. Instead, I said I was just tired. Weddings are a lot. The lie felt sour on my tongue. He reached over and squeezed my knee like he was soothing a random mood shift. I let him because arguing in a dark car felt like too much right then. Sometimes your body chooses survival over confrontation. Later that night, I stood in the bathroom and stared at my own reflection. My makeup was smudged, my eyes looked older than they had that morning. I thought about my future husband letting his best friend plan a public humiliation in my name. My chest tightened again, and this time no one was there to watch me swallow it. Back then, I told myself I would bring it up the next day when we were rested. I told myself it would sound more reasonable then, that I would not cry. Looking back, I can see how that delay cost me. That was the first moment I trained him to think my dignity could wait. And the worst part is I handed him that lesson with my silence. I dropped a spoon into the sink harder than I meant. The clang snapped through the kitchen and finally forced his eyes up. My palms were damp around my coffee mug and I was done stalling. I drew one breath that felt sharp enough to cut my throat. I told myself this was the last chance to ask calmly. "I heard you and Logan last night near the bathrooms." The words came out flat and heavier than I expected. He paused mid-bite over his plate and studied my face. I leaned on the counter because my knees felt unreliable around him. "You were laughing while he planned jokes about me being used." He blinked once, then gave this confused little grin like I was teasing. "What are you talking about?" came out of his mouth on autopilot. I told him I had stopped behind the hallway door and heard everything. Not just my name, the whole plan, the tone, the cheering. He let out a short laugh that felt colder than the fridge behind him. "Come on, you know how he is." His voice finally landed. He shook his head and reached for his drink like this was silly. "He makes edgy jokes, he pushes lines, everybody understands he does not mean it." My stomach clenched and I hated that he used everybody as a shield. He called me cool again without saying the actual word, and I heard it anyway. "He was just joking, I promise," came next like a script he knew. I stared at him over my cup and my hands would not stay steady. I told him Logan used the word slut about me in that booth. Hearing it again out loud in our kitchen made my cheeks burn. He winced for half a second, then smoothed it over with another weak smile. "I mean, people know that is not you," he tried. He opened his hands like this was a compliment and not a problem. If anything, it shows everyone you are not some delicate little princess. He thought that line helped somehow and my teeth pressed together, so being insulted in front of our guests is proof I am strong. That is not insulting, he shook his head, where is the insult? He pointed out that nobody knows any numbers, nobody thinks I slept with them. It is just playful exaggeration, you know how guys are when they hang out. The phrase you know how guys are made something in me go very still. I realized he saw the entire conversation as normal background noise, not a red flag. Did you think it was funny last night? I finally asked. My voice came out low, and even in that scared me more than shouting. He shifted in his chair and shrugged without meeting my eyes. Parts were wild, sure, but that is just the style that group has. He looked up then and tried to read whether I would drop it or not. You did not stop him, I pushed, because I needed that on record. You were right there, you could have told him no, that crosses a line. He rubbed his jaw like it ached and exhaled through his nose. I told him that is crazy, and I laughed about him being nuts. No, you laughed with him, I remembered, and the memory tasted metallic in my mouth. His shoulders tensed and his voice sharpened like I had crossed some invisible line. Why are you twisting everything into the worst version, he asked. We are under pressure right now, can you please not create extra problems? He talked about the budget, the schedule, the guest list, anything except my dignity. Listening to him turn my boundary into drama made my chest feel tight and hot. I am not making this up, I watched you choose him over me. I heard you tell him I will be fine, like my feelings are indestructible. His face shifted then because he realized I had caught that exact sentence. He muttered that he only meant I would not storm off or cry. So you counted on me staying calm while you let him clown on me. He pushed his plate away and finally looked straight at me across the table. What do you want me to do? He asked. Keep him out of the wedding. He framed it like that was insane, like I was asking for some social execution. I wanted to say yes right then, the answer sat heavy on my tongue. Instead, I told him I wanted the speech to be respectful, that is all. He relaxed a little at that, and I watched his posture soften inch by inch. Okay, that I can handle, I will talk to him, he finally offered. He pulled out his phone and tapped the screen like he was already fixing it. I asked to see the message and his fingers froze for a heartbeat. Then he locked the screen and said he would handle it later on his own. That tiny pause told me almost as much as the jokes had the night before. If he wanted to protect me, why did it need to be secret? If he was proud of standing up for me, why hide the words? He reached across and brushed my wrist, told me to trust him on this. I nodded while every part of me felt like it was leaning back from him. Later that morning, he whistled while packing his work bag like nothing heavy had happened. I watched him move around the room and tried to pick. To our ceremony again, the image kept warping because I could hear Logan over the vows every time. He kissed my forehead on his way out and thanked me for understanding. The door clicked behind him and I realized I had never actually said I understood. Once I was alone, my hands finally started shaking the way they wanted to earlier. I replayed the conversation and kept stumbling over my own choices, not just his. I had lowered my demand to please be nice about me at our wedding. That was the bar I set for myself, and he barely cleared even that. I did not know yet that this would become our pattern every time I flinched. My phone buzzed 3 times in a row before noon. The vibration rattled against the table and cut through the low office noise. I glanced over, ready to ignore it, then saw the contact name. Eric from the Groomsmen chat almost never texted me directly. My pulse jumped before I even read the preview line. His first message sat on the screen. Hey, this is awkward, but I feel weird not saying something. That word weird hooked straight into my gut. I unlocked the phone with a thumb that did not want to cooperate. By the time the thread opened, he had already sent a second text. Please tell me you actually know what Logan wants to do in his toast. That was the next line, sitting right under the first. I went cold from the back of my neck down to my shoulders. Ryan had told me he would handle it, so my brain tried to cling to that. If it was handled, why was one of his friends looping me in behind his back? What do you mean? I typed. My fingers drifted above the screen before hitting send. I watched the little typing dots appear from his side and then vanish. They came back again like he was fighting with himself too. Those few seconds stretched long enough for my stomach to start rolling. He finally replied, I do not want to start drama before the wedding, but those group chat messages are rough. He added another text right away before I could answer. If you are fine with it, I will shut up, I just need to know. That last part stung more than it should have because I heard Ryan in it. Can you show me? He offered next. I stared at that sentence and knew we both understood what it implied. There was something concrete, not just casual talk. Send it, I wrote. My thumb hovered there for a beat, then pressed. I felt like I had just flipped a switch I could not flip back. A new bubble popped up with the word screenshot. The attached image loaded in segments across my screen. My heart started pounding against my ribs like it wanted out. I tapped the thumbnail and it expanded until the text filled my vision. The name of their group chat glared at the top like a headline. The first block was Logan. He was workshopping lines like he thought he was on stage. Might open with how Mia was the unofficial community girlfriend for a while. A crying, laughing emoji sat right after that. Someone responded with savage and a fire emoji. I scrolled before I could talk myself out of it. Next line from him, something about Ryan locking me down before the warranty expired. Another guy wrote dude that is dark but had another laughing face tacked on. No pushback, just shock mixed with entertainment. They were playing with the idea of me as worn merchandise. My throat went dry and I swallowed nothing. I dragged my finger up again and the messages hopped higher. The thread moved into them ranking which bridesmaid looked hottest in college photos. Then it bent back toward me like it always wanted to land there anyway. Logan suggested ending the speech with a joke about how only one man gets to access me now. I felt mildly sick reading the word access used about my body. I kept scrolling because I already knew the worst part would be where he chimed in. It did not take long to find his name. Under one of the nastier lines from Logan there was his reply. "You are out of control, man, this is killing me." Two crying laugh reactions sat next to it. No mention of stopping, no line drawn, just encouragement dressed up as surprise. He added another comment a few messages later. "She will crack up at this, you know how she is." That one sliced through whatever excuse I had tried to build for him. In his mind I was the kind of woman who would hear all this and buckle over laughing, not the woman whose hands shook right then over her phone. I realized my eyes were burning and the edges of the screen had gone blurry. I got up from my chair so fast it scraped the floor. A coworker glanced over and I muttered something about needing air. I walked to the far end of the hallway and leaned against the wall hard. The phone shook in my grip and I had to lock the screen just to breathe. I reopened the thread and typed, "How long has this been going on?" My thumb hit send before I could polish the question. He answered quicker this time like the seal was already broken. "Since he asked me to be best man, it pops up every few days. New bits, new variations," he wrote that he. And one other guy felt gross reading some of it. "Why did no one say anything?" I shot back. The words came out fast and messy and honest. He replied that every time he thought about speaking up he pictured being called sensitive. Then he texted this. "I stupidly hoped Ryan would shut it down because it is about you." Seeing that hope written down made my chest ache more than the insults. There was one more screenshot waiting in the thread. This one started with Logan telling the group, "Do not worry, I will skip the worst lines when her family is there." So the plan was to keep a milder version and save the rest for their chat. He used the phrase body count and added a winking face I wanted to punch. Further down in that same image, I found another message from my fiance. "Just do not get me dumped before the honeymoon, man." That was it. No version of that is a boundary. That is someone who cares about consequences more than respect. My fingers were numb by then, but I kept scrolling anyway because denial dies slow. I finally wrote, "Thank you for showing me," and meant it. He responded almost immediately with, "I am really sorry I did not come to you sooner." Then he added one more thing he had been holding back. "Logan joked yesterday about how if you flip out he will say you cannot take a joke." My whole body went cold reading that prediction. I closed my eyes for a second and saw the breakfast scene again. Him telling me not to create problems while we are busy. Him promising to take care of it like he was doing me a favor. Meanwhile, he was in that chat hyping up the same garbage. That was the first moment I felt something solid in me shift away from him. I saved every image to my own drive because I no longer trusted shared spaces. I forwarded them to my personal email and double-checked they went through. For once I did not gaslight myself about details. I knew there would be a fight and I did not want to argue from memory. The evidence sat in my pocket buzzing like a live wire waiting to burn. I dropped my phone on the table with the screenshots open. The sound made him glance up from his laptop. For a second he looked annoyed about the interruption, then his face changed as he saw his own name in the chat. He went quiet so fast it scared me more than yelling. "You told me you handled it." My voice came out rough. I tapped the screen and zoomed in on the worst lines. He leaned forward and his jaw tightened as he read. I watched his eyes move over the words about my body like it was a group toy. He finally exhaled and sat back. "This is not what it looks like." I laughed once because that was insane. "It looks like your friend planning to humiliate me on my wedding day. It looks like you cheering from the front row while he does it." He rubbed his face hard like this was exhausting for him. "It is just chat humor, they go too far online." I pointed at his reply where he wrote, "This is killing me," with those little laughing icons. "You were not uncomfortable, you were entertained." He looked at the ceiling like he wanted rescue from there. "You know I do not think about you that way." He spread his hands like that solved anything. I told him it did not matter what he secretly believed. What mattered was the story he helped build for everyone else. He called it overthinking, which landed like a slap. "I do not care what label you put on this." My voice steadied as I spoke. "That speech will not include anything about my sex life." He stared at me like I had grown another head. "You cannot control every word that comes out of someone else." Watch me, the words came out before I could edit them. If he keeps that material, he does not stand up as best man. If he insists on those jokes, there is no event. His chair scraped as he shifted back from the table. So now I have to choose between my best friend and you. He pushed the words across the room like a test. I stared at him and felt something cool settle in my chest. No, you have to choose between respect and cheap laughs. The fact that feels like the same thing to you is the problem. He shook his head and repeated that I was going nuclear over nothing. Everyone knows those toasts get wild, you are acting like a stranger. I reminded him that his own friend had sent me the evidence. If it was really harmless, why would someone inside that group feel sick? He had no answer for that part, so he attacked the source instead. I cannot believe Eric shared private messages. His voice finally rose and filled the room. That is such a betrayal of trust, this ruins the whole crew. He looked more hurt by that than by my anger. In that moment I understood his loyalty had a very specific direction. I held the phone up between us like a mirror. He called me community girlfriend here. He joked about warranty expiring. He treated my body like some public resource. I asked him flat out if he thought I deserved any of that. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. You know Logan, he pushes buttons to get reactions, he final. Lie landed on that weak defense and clung to it. I do not date Logan, I am marrying you. If your best friend cannot get to me without tearing me down, that is a you problem. He dragged a hand through his hair and paced. What do you actually want from me? The frustration in his voice sounded almost sincere. I wanted him to be disgusted by what I showed him. Instead, he was irritated that I refused to swallow it. I laid it out clean so there was no confusion. 1. Logan apologizes to me directly. 2. He scraps every line that touches my sex life or my body count. 3. You stop laughing along whenever he goes after me. I told him if those 3 things did not happen, there would not be vows. He stared at me like I had thrown furniture. You would really call everything off over a joke. His eyes searched my face for any sign I was bluffing. I did not blink. I told him I would rather be single than the punchline of my own ceremony. He muttered that he would talk to him again. The word again made my stomach twist. I asked what he had actually said the first time. He claimed he told Logan to chill out and keep it light. I slid the phone over and pointed at yet another laughing reaction from him. This does not look like someone telling their friend to chill. My voice dropped low. This looks like someone encouraging the show. He flicked his gaze away and shrugged. I cannot control how you interpret things. I walked to the counter and grabbed the wedding binder. My hands moved before my mind caught up. I pulled out the page with the venue payment schedule and read it twice. There were still balances not charged yet, and that felt suddenly important. You are not really doing this. His voice came from behind me sharper now. I told him I was not canceling anything yet. I was just learning my options. Then I set the binder out of his reach and watched the realization hit his face. When he left for errands later, I opened my laptop. I wrote a brief message to our planner asking for clarity on refund timelines. I told her we were reviewing some family issues and needed numbers. Hitting send felt like opening a side door he did not know existed. After that, I gathered my passport and a few key documents. I put them into a different drawer than usual. Nothing dramatic, just a small, quiet relocation. It was my way of admitting to myself that the threat I made at the table was not empty. That evening, he knocked on the bedroom door before coming in. His shoulders were tense and his voice tried to sound calm. I talked to him. We are good. He rolled the words out like a peace offering. I asked what exactly good meant. He said Logan understood the concern and would tone it down. That phrase set off another alarm inside me. Tone it down was not the same as scrap it. I pressed him for specifics and watched his patience fray. You have to let me handle my friendships. He sat on the edge of the bed. I need you to trust that I got the message across. I asked him to show me the new text so I could see for myself. He pulled his phone out, then locked it again without opening anything. This is between guys. His thumb hovered over the screen. If I show you every message, there is no safe space for anyone. I realized he wanted me to commit blind while he protected the chat more than me. I told him my body was not a safe target for their jokes. He stared at me for a long moment. Finally, he said, fine, you do what you think you need to do. The distance in that sentence felt louder than any shouting. He turned away and lay down without another word. I watched his back and understood something had broken that would not mend easily. That night I slept close to the edge of the mattress. My mind ran through lists instead of dreams, vendors, deposits, housing options if I backed out. It was the first time I organized my future without automatically putting him in every box. Looking back, that was the real ultimatum, not the one I gave out loud at the table. The quiet one I made to myself in that room. Either he proved he could stand between me and their cruelty, or I would walk away from all of it. I just did not realize yet how far that would go or who would be watching when the choice landed. The fork slipped from his hand when Logan grabbed the mic. The rehearsal dinner buzzed around us and I felt nothing but static. I had promised myself one thing on the drive there. If he went near those lines, I would not swallow it this time. Logan tapped the glass twice and grinned at the room. People turned their chairs toward him and settled in. My parents smiled up at him like he was already family. Across the table, my almost husband forced an easy expression that did not reach his eyes. Earlier that afternoon, I had asked again about the speech. He kissed my temple and told me everything was cleaned up. You are going to love it, trust me. That sentence echoed in my head while Logan cleared his throat. He started harmless and the crowd responded on cue. Haiti eased him for being late to propose and people laughed. He mentioned their college nonsense and a few group stories. Everyone relaxed, which is exactly how setups work. I watched his hands while he talked because mine were too tight. He swung the mic cord like a prop and leaned into it. From the corner of my eye, I checked his face. He looked tense but not opposed, and that detail mattered. Then Logan shifted his stance, and I knew the turn was coming. His smile changed shape and his voice dropped half a step. You know, we all knew she was a catch. A few people clapped and I held my breath. He pushed on. Some of the guys here knew just how fun she could be. The word hung there long enough for people to register it. A few nervous laughs bubbled up and then died off. He chuckled into the mic. Relax, I am just saying Ryan had competition for a while. That line landed heavier than he expected and he saw it. So he went for the quick save that made everything worse. I mean, back in the day she was very generous. He let that sit and gave the room a knowing look. That was the moment my vision sharpened like a camera snap. Across from me he stared at the tablecloth and smiled stiffly. The sound around me dulled like someone turned a knob. I saw my mother glance at me then stare ahead. My father's jaw tightened while he pretended to be amused. The bridesmaids exchanged looks that were not actually funny. He was still talking. Do not worry, she picked one guy in the end. He clapped my almost husband on the shoulder and everyone watched him. He laughed along just enough to stay part of the group. That was it for me. My chair scraped back louder than I planned and eyes swung over. Logan paused with the mic lifted halfway. I felt my hands shaking but my voice came out steady. Repeat that last part. The room went quiet fast. Logan smiled wider like he loved the attention. Which one, he asked like he had not just dragged me. The part where I was generous. Say exactly what you meant right now. I heard my heart pounding in my ears between each word. On my left he reached for my wrist under the table. Sit down, we can talk later. His fingers closed lightly and I pulled my arm free. No, we are talking now because you promised this was fixed. I kept my eyes on Logan because he was easier to face. He lifted his shoulders and tried to act wounded. It is a compliment, you are fun and open and everybody loves you. People shifted in their seats at the word everybody. You are really going to twist that into something ugly tonight. My laugh came out short and harsh. You already twisted it, I am just holding it up. I reached for my phone because this was the line. My thumb opened the folder I never wanted to use here. He rolled his eyes and tried to lighten the mood. Guys, she thinks I'm up here body shaming or something. It is all jokes, we have been messing around for weeks. That last word snapped my focus onto him instead. So you all knew this was coming. I scanned the faces around the long table slowly. Several of the groomsmen would not meet my gaze. Eric looked directly at me and did not look away. Do you really want to do this? His voice dropped low. He leaned closer like we were on the same side. You are making this into a bigger scene than it needs. There it was again, the crime of reacting at all. I stood fully and turned to the rest of the guests. Sorry everyone, I just need to clear something up. My hands were trembling but the mic was still in his. So I used what I had, my phone and my voice. Logan thinks it is cute to joke about my past. He also thinks it is fine to turn our wedding into a roast. I tapped the screen and pulled up the first screenshot. My thumb felt numb but it still worked. In their group chat he wrote this. I read from the screen, my voice carrying in the hush. Quote, might open with how she was the community girlfriend for a while. I heard someone at the back gasp before I even finished. I looked up at him. You still want to call that a compliment? His grin slipped for the first time all night. He opened his mouth but no sound came out. Another one. He thought this would be great for the reception. Quote, only one man gets to access her now. My stomach lurched just saying it out loud in that room. My parents stared at me in stunned silence. His parents stared at their plates and did not move. The bridal party looked like they wanted to disappear into the floor. Logan tried to laugh it off and it came out strained. Okay, obviously I was not going to say all of that. He spread his arms and glanced around, fishing for support. We were just blowing off steam in our messages. You really dragged everyone into private jokes. I stepped toward him. You were absolutely planning to say some version of it. You already tested a toned-down line into a live audience. You wanted to see how much you could get away with. He scoffed into the mic. Beal, plea here can take a joke, they are not this sensitive. The word sensitive sparked anger so sharp I almost welcomed it. I felt it focus me instead of drowning me. I turned then and held my phone up toward my almost husband. Here is your part. Everyone deserves context. You wrote, "Do not get me dumped before the honeymoon man." The room went even quieter somehow. Color drained from his face, but he tried to steady himself. That was me messing around, nobody actually believes this garbage. You did not tell him to stop though, and we both knew it. I lowered the phone. So here is the issue. You do not get to help invent a trashy version of me. Then ask me to walk down an aisle smiling like it never happened. He pushed back his chair and got to his feet. Mia, enough, you are humiliating me right now. The way he framed that nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. I was the one exposed and he played the victim. Humiliating you. I heard my own voice go very calm. Your best man called me community property in a chat. You laughed along and called that friendship. He ran a hand through his hair and looked around. Can we please talk about this somewhere private? We have family here, we have people who flew in. Translation, stop making it uncomfortable for everyone else. His mother finally spoke up from the side. Sweetheart, maybe we should all sit and breathe. She aimed a soft, pleading look at me instead of at the men. It told me exactly how she would respond to every future conflict. I shook my head once. I am not marrying into a circle where I am a constant punchline. Not at dinners, not in chats, not in speeches. If that makes me dramatic, fine, at least I am clear. My fingers slid the engagement ring from my hand. The metal felt heavier than it had that morning. I placed it on the table between his plate and Logan's elbow. It landed with a tiny sound that cut straight through the silence. Someone at the far end sucked in a breath. He stared at the ring like it might move by itself. Logan swore under his breath and reached for my shoulder. I stepped back so his hand caught empty air. You are really doing this over a couple of jokes. He sounded horrified and offended in equal measure. I met his eyes and finally let myself answer honestly. I am doing this because you kept choosing him over me. I could feel tears building, but they stayed off my face. I was not going to give them that image, not here. I straightened up and looked around the long table one last time. These are your people and they can keep you. Then I turned and walked toward the exit. No dramatic run, no breakdown in the hallway. Just steady steps away from a future I had already started canceling in my head. Behind me I heard chairs scrape and voices rise, but I did not turn around. 3 hours after I walked out, his first message hit my phone. I was on a borrowed couch with my shoes still on. My parents had dropped me there in stunned silence. The screen lit up with his name in all caps like he was shouting. Well, that was your choice tonight. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I stared at those lines and felt my stomach tighten again. A second bubble appeared before I answered. You made me look like an abuser over a comedy bit. That word lodged in my chest because I had not used it. My thumb hovered over the keyboard and did nothing. My friend came in with a blanket and a glass of water. Her eyes were wide like she had seen a crash in real time. You can stay as long as you need, she told me. I nodded once because anything more would have cracked me open. Another text buzzed while she walked back to her room. You put Logan on blast when we could have handled it quietly. You just confirmed every joke he made about you flipping. Reading that, I finally understood they had rehearsed my reaction too. I typed one sentence. You chose not to protect me 3 separate times. My fingers shook, but I hit send anyway. He did not respond for almost an hour after that. When his reply came, the tone had shifted. Look, I know he crossed lines. I just wish you had not turned it into a public scene. We could have smoothed it out after the dinner. The word smoothed made something in me snap. There was nothing smooth about being stripped down to joke. There was nothing smooth about my parents hearing those screenshots. I set the phone face down and let it buzz on the cushion. Sleep did not really happen that night, just short blackouts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the ring on that table. I kept hearing the tiny sound it made when I set it down. It replayed like a clip I could not pause. By morning, his messages had gotten softer. I woke up to a paragraph apology sitting on my lock screen. He wrote that he understood he hurt me deeply. He wrote that he loved me and wanted to fix everything. He added this part near the end. Please do not destroy our whole life over an ugly joke. That line told me nothing had actually clicked yet. He still framed my boundary as destruction. I got up, showered quickly, and pulled on the first clean clothes. Then I opened my email and wrote to the planner. We need to freeze all planning for now. I might have sounded calm, but my hands were cramped around the phone. Next was the venue coordinator. I asked about cancellation terms and dates in a short message. Seeing the numbers in black and white made my stomach churn. It also reminded me why so many people stay and swallow things. He called instead of texting after lunch. The ringtone sliced through the quiet apartment. I let it go to voicemail 3 times before I finally answered. His voice came through tight but controlled. Can you come home so we can actually talk? I told him I would stop by to pack essentials only. He tried to argue, but I cut him off for once. I am not moving back in, that part is not up for debate. A few hours later, I pulled into our driveway with my friend. Walking up to that door felt like walking into a test I had not studied for. He opened it before I knocked like he had been pacing. His eyes were red and there were half-empty glasses on the table behind him. You really blindsided me last night. He ran a hand over his face and stepped aside. Guests were calling me all night asking what happened. Do you have any idea how that felt? I dragged a suitcase from the closet without answering. My body knew what it needed to do, even while my brain argued. Fold, pack, check the drawer for documents again. I kept moving so I would not get stuck in his version of things. He followed me into the bedroom doorway. You put my private messages on display. You humiliated my best friend in front of both families. And somehow I am the bad guy. I spun around so fast my vision tilted for a second. You are the guy who laughed while they reduced me to a punchline. You are the guy who had multiple chances to shut it down. You are the guy who cared more about looking chill than keeping me safe. He winced at the word safe like I had accused him of violence. I never laid a hand on you, do not twist this. I shook my head because he still did not get it. Respect is not just about hands, it is about what you allow on your watch. He tried another angle. You know Logan. He runs his mouth and then moves on. You just blew up our entire friend group over a habit. I set a pile of clothes into the suitcase and zipped it halfway. Eric did not think it was nothing. He reached out because he felt sick reading your chat. You should ask yourself why the quiet one had more of a spine. Hearing Eric's name made his expression tighten. So now you are taking his side over mine. In his mind there were only sides, not basic decency. That told me everything I needed to know about our future arguments. I grabbed my passport from the drawer and slipped it into my bag. He watched that move and panic flashed across his face. Do you really see me as that dangerous? I answered honestly, I see you as unreliable with my dignity. He stepped closer and reached for my arm. Please, we have planned an entire life together. We can set better rules with friends. I can make him apologize if that is what you want. I pulled back out of his reach. I want someone whose first instinct is to defend me, not test me. We are too old for lessons this basic. I do not trust you not to do this again in a different form. For a second his face crumpled and I almost wavered. This was the man I had chosen over and over. My body remembered every good moment and threw them in my face. My brain remembered that group chat and shoved it right back. I lifted my bag onto my shoulder and walked to the hall. He followed, still talking, still negotiating. Let us postpone, not cancel, please just think. My chest hurt, but my feet kept moving. At the door I paused and looked back once. You had so many chances to prove I mattered more than his jokes. You used everyone to impress him instead. I cannot marry someone who passes that kind of test. His eyes filled and he leaned on the frame like he suddenly needed support. You are going to regret this when you calm down. Maybe I said, but at least I will regret it as a whole person. Then I stepped out and heard the door click shut behind me. The online fallout started almost immediately after. A mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot from Logan's profile. A vague message about certain girls needing to learn how to laugh. 3 of his friends had liked it, including one of my bridesmaids' partners. Seeing that hit me harder than I expected. It confirmed how many people knew this was the pattern. He has always been like this, one comment read under it. They wrote it like that excused everything instead of making it worse. Eric texted again a day later. If you need anything, let me know. For what it is worth, a couple of us think you did the right thing. I did not really. See how much I needed someone to actually say that. I answered with a simple thank you and meant it. He added that he was taking a step back from that group. Watching them spin the story made him feel dirty. That tiny ripple of consequence was more than I had seen from my ex. Meanwhile, my phone kept lighting up with mixed messages from him. 1 hour he was furious about deposits and guest lists. The next he was sending old photos of us and writing "Remember this." It felt less like love and more like pressure disguised as nostalgia. Canceling the vendors came next, one uncomfortable call at a time. Every time I said the words "the wedding is off," my throat tightened. A couple of people were kind and wished me well. One coordinator sighed and asked if it was cold feet. I wanted to tell her it was actually warm feet. Feet that finally felt like they were attached to my own choices. Instead, I just said no and gave her the new instructions. I hung up each time and sat with the ache and the relief mixed together. A week later, I went back once more with my dad to collect the rest. My ex stayed in the kitchen while we boxed the final things. No yelling this time, just quiet resentment in the air. I could feel it on my skin like humidity. As we carried out the last load, he spoke up. Just know you're blowing up something most women would kill for. House, wedding, stable guy. He listed those like a package deal I was too foolish to keep. I stopped on the porch and turned. Most women would kill for a partner who protects them in every room. Not one who laughs while his friend tears her down. If you think I should stay for a house, then you never knew me. My dad cleared his throat behind me and shifted the box in his arms. He did not say anything, but he did not hurry me either. In that moment, I realized whose version of love I wanted to copy. Spoiler, it was not my almost husband's. Over the next month, his messages slowed down and then changed flavor. Less anger, more pity. I hope you find what you are looking for. That kind of polished line that sounds generous but holds a sting. I muted the thread instead of answering again. I blocked Logan completely after he sent one fake apology. It was 3 lines about misunderstanding and one long dig about my reaction. I did not owe him the energy it would take to reply. At some point, my friend looked over while we were watching a show. You know you are allowed to stop replaying it, right? I laughed and told her my brain did not get that memo yet. Even now, writing this, parts of that night still run on a loop. That is actually why I ended up on Reddit. I wanted to throw the whole story at a crowd that did not owe me anything. I wanted strangers to tell me if I had lost it, or if calling off a wedding over public disrespect was reasonable. So here I am typing it all out for you. The overheard plans, the chat logs, the dinner and the ring and the door closing behind me. I know some people will still say I wrecked something good. They will say boys will be boys and toasts get wild. They will ask why I could not just laugh for one night and move on. I have asked myself all of that already, over and over. Here is where I land now that the dust has started to settle. I almost tied myself legally and financially to a man. A man who thought my value included how well I could swallow shame. Walking away from that might hurt, but staying would have hollowed me out. So no, I do not think I overreacted. I think I finally reacted at the exact volume the situation deserved. And if that makes me the villain in their group chat, they can keep that script. I am busy rewriting the part where I am more than a setup for somebody else's joke.